We basically go through our days assuming our global connection is this invincible, invisible force. But welcome to this explainer, because today we're embarking on a deep dive into the hidden, astonishingly fragile infrastructure that literally keeps our modern world spinning. The reality of our digital existence? Well, it's far more grounded, far more precarious, and honestly, absolutely fascinating. We're going to look right at the global nerve center of humanity and explore exactly what happens when you sever it.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine a scenario, and I don't mean just a temporary power outage in your neighborhood where the lights flicker and then come right back on. I'm talking about a total, global digital blackout. Just imagine waking up tomorrow and you've got no WhatsApp to text your family, no YouTube to learn from, no access to your digital banking, and literally no way to connect to the outside world. It sounds like the plot of a sci-fi movie, right? But the question we really have to ask ourselves today is just how close that scenario is to reality.
Because here is the incredible truth that completely shatters the biggest myth of the digital age. We all tend to visualize the internet as this magical satellite-driven cloud floating above us, but the reality is the exact opposite. 99% of all our global digital data actually travels along the ocean floor. Your emails, the financial markets, all our streaming services, they're almost entirely dependent on physical infrastructure resting at the very bottom of the sea.
Which brings us to Section 1, the Soda Can Network, debunking the cloud. So let's head down from those imaginary clouds and look at where the real internet lives.
Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, why don't we just use satellites for everything if the ocean is so risky? And it's a great question. Satellites are brilliant pieces of technology for sure, and they're exceptionally good for specific things, especially reaching remote, off-the-grid areas. But here's the rub. Satellites simply have a really low data volume capacity compared to what humanity actually demands. They just cannot physically handle the massive, overwhelming volume of data we generate and consume every single second. Undersea cables, on the other hand, well, they're the true workhorses here. They carry the immense, colossal weight of modern civilization.
And honestly, this is the visual shocker. All of that data, the collective knowledge, the economy, the communication of billions of people, it all relies on hundreds of thousands of miles of physical cables that are often no thicker than a standard soda can. Inside that remarkably thin casing are delicate glass fibers, and they're carrying the light pulses that make up our entire digital existence. It's incredibly humbling, isn't it? Realizing just how delicate the lifeline of our modern civilization truly is.
Moving on to Section 2, dangerous digital choke points, squeezing the global data. Let's dive a little deeper into how easily this setup can fail. So our network suffers from some severe geographic vulnerabilities. A choke point is basically defined as a narrow underwater corridor where massive amounts of critical global data are forced to squeeze through. Because obviously the ocean floor isn't completely flat or safe, cable companies lay these wires along the most optimal geographic routes. This means in certain places, like the Red Sea or specific routes in the Atlantic, dozens of these delicate, soda can-sized cables are bundled incredibly close together. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how if a disturbance happens in one of these narrow areas, the global economy would begin to stall out and jam up, exactly like an engine deprived of oil. To put that geopolitical risk into perspective, think about the Strait of Hormuz. It's this tiny 35-kilometer gap, yet roughly 25%, somewhere between 20 to 30%, of the entire world's oil flows right through it. The whole global energy market basically holds its breath over that one tiny stretch of water. Well, our digital choke points are exactly the same. We funnel the world's most valuable resource, data, through equally narrow, highly vulnerable physical corridors on the ocean floor. A single incident in one of these choke points doesn't just affect one country. It can trigger a global blackout cascade.
And that leads right into Section 3, Wrath of the Deep Sea, Nature's Kill Switch. Because it's not just about geography, it's about the violent unpredictability of nature itself.
Just consider the sheer scale of the natural forces at play here. Back on March 28, a massive 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck Myanmar. The power of this quake was so immense that it caused skyscrapers a full 1,000 kilometers away in Bangkok to visibly sway, and bridges to literally collapse. As the Earth violently shifted along the active Sagahing Fault, it created unimaginable tension on the ocean floor. Under that kind of extreme geographic stress, these vital soda can-sized fiber optic cables, they don't stand a chance. They simply snap like dry twigs in a forest. Nature can literally flip the switch in a matter of seconds.
And this brilliantly illustrates another terrifying reality of the deep sea, the pressure.
The ocean is an incredibly hostile environment. At those depths, we're talking about thousands of pounds of pressure per square inch. This brings us to the concept of delamination. It's this terrifying physical process where materials literally peel apart layer by layer due to that immense deep-sea pressure. We saw this horrifying reality with the tragic Titan submersible disaster, where even advanced materials like carbon fiber catastrophically failed under the ocean's crushing weight. Our cables are sitting right in that exact same punishing environment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And if a cable snaps in the wrong place, the logistics of actually fixing it are almost incomprehensible. Take Point Nemo, for instance, known as the oceanic point of inaccessibility. It's located so incredibly deep in the Pacific that it's thousands of miles from any landmass. In fact, if you were stranded at Point Nemo, the closest human beings to you wouldn't be on a boat. They would literally be the astronauts floating above you on the International Space Station. Now, just imagine a fragile wire, roughly the size of a garden hose, breaking in the pitch blackness of Point Nemo. Finding it, raising it, and repairing it with underwater drones and specialized repair ships is a complete logistical nightmare.
Let's plunge into the deepest layer of this explainer in Section 4. Who controls the cables? The corporate paradox.
We are seeing a really fascinating corporate paradox regarding who actually owns this infrastructure. Traditionally, telecommunications consortiums ran these cables, but today, tech giants are completely taking over. On one hand, giants like Meta are heavily investing billions of dollars into laying new undersea cables to connect the entire globe and facilitate this massive public connection for billions of users. But on the other hand, we see private actions, like Meta's founder Mark Zuckerberg reportedly building a massive, self-sufficient 1,400-acre bunker compound in Hawaii. It's a striking duality, right? Investing in extreme global connection while simultaneously preparing for extreme private disconnection.
Because when the world's most vital infrastructure transitions from public utilities into the hands of private corporations, transparency often completely disappears. These massive cable projects are frequently shrouded in strict non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs. The stated goal for these tech giants is complete control over the hardware that moves their data. So the crucial point is, as a society, when everything is hidden behind legal paperwork and corporate secrecy, we have to impartially ask ourselves, who really holds the internet's kill switch?
And honestly, this builds into an incredible technological irony. We live in an era of unbelievable innovation. Right now, scientists are using synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, beamed from advanced satellites in space to look right through the Earth. We are literally mapping ancient hidden chambers beneath the Giza pyramids from orbit. We have the tech to see through solid stone from space. Yet, we suffer from what we can call deep sea blindness. Despite our space-age mapping capabilities, our entire modern way of life remains incredibly, almost absurdly vulnerable to a single physical cable snapping in the dark, cold depths of the ocean.
We've journeyed from the myth of the cloud, way down to the perilous choke points, through the crushing pressure of the deep sea, and right into the secretive boardrooms of tech giants. Understanding this hidden physical world is absolutely the first step in protecting it. The digital threads that connect every single aspect of our lives are far thinner and far more fragile than we ever realize. Which leaves us with one final provocative thought to carry with you today. Looking at everything we've uncovered, the immense risks, the geographic threats, and a corporate control, are we too dependent on the internet? I challenge you to look beneath the surface of your daily digital life. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the world around you, and I will see you next time.